Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. And yes, we have a new channel now. So, a bit of a small information before we start off. So, this is, guys, the new channel of Let's Upgrade. Due to some issues, our old channel was terminated. And so, this is the new thing that we have started because we are not going to stop doing the free sessions for you because we know a lot of students are learning from these free sessions so that we keep on doing, right? So, this is a new channel. So, if you are new to the channel, please quickly before we start the session, please go and hit that subscribe button so that we can gain back our audience faster, right? So please, I would request you guys to go and please hit that subscribe button faster. Secondly, I'm just here to explain you the whole process as always, and thereafter I'll call Twinkle, who is going to be instructor for the next 3 days. Yeah. What happened to old channel? So there's a lot of story. You can just go and check our Twitter handle. We have posted a full post about it. Main attendance, okay, that's great. Okay, so before we start off, right, so the first thing I would like to do is present my screen so you guys can see what I'm actually doing. Just give me a second. Mm, yep. Yeah, so I hope you guys are able to see me. So I'm just looking for your chats. Do we have to buy the certificate or is free? It's completely free, guys. So anything and everything that you learn on this channel is going to be free for you always. Yeah, so that is our promise to you. That is the thing how we started, right? So yeah, so the first things first, you will see a description or you can just check the pinned chat, which our moderators have pinned. You will see something called as all-in-one documents, right? So you can just use the short link, or if right now I'm just going to copy the original link and I'm just going to paste it here. You guys might not be able to because since this is a new channel, there are some restrictions from YouTube. So more faster we grow this channel, the restrictions will be lifted on again and we can start as we used to do. Yeah, so this is the document. You can see all the things that you need. So the session links and everything are right here. So there are basically 3 steps as always for you to complete this particular bootcamp and get certificate. The first thing is to go and enroll yourself. So anyone who has directly come to YouTube who has not registered yet, he has to go to our website and get yourself enrolled in the program. Second thing is you have to watch the sessions, all the 3 of them, and mark your attendance. And post that, when the session is completed, all the 3, and you watch it and mark your attendance, you will get the certificate from us, right? So let's start off. First of all, you see doc link. This is basically the link to this document again. Just below that, you will see something called as the enrollment and attendance link, right? So I'm just going to click on that link, and that should take me to Let's Upgrade website and the particular program page that we are going to enroll. So currently I'm not enrolled. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my screen share because I'm putting my mobile number. Just give me a minute. I'm just logging in. So you have to just enter your number and you should get an OTP. Okay, so let me just share my screen again. Yes, so this is the page that you should land on. Again, you can see subscription to a new channel, a student ambassador program, and a postman bootcamp. And again, this is the page where you can see all the sessions and everything that are going here. Currently I've not enrolled yet, so that is why everything is blank. So first thing I need to do is just go and click on the enroll button. So with that, it should enroll me, and yeah, that's it. I've enrolled and I also have received 50 LU coins. Yeah, so now that everything is unlocked for us, you can see that the first video is now available for you to watch. And once you click on this, it should directly take you to the particular YouTube video which you are now watching. Just below that, you have a mark attendance button. Just go and click on the mark attendance. So you can give anything from 1 to 10. If you're giving anything below 10, please ensure that you please specify whatever uh, went off or what made you cut marks for us. Yeah, so for now I'm going to just do nothing since I'm giving a 10 and mark attendance. And with that, my attendance should be marked and my progress bar should be up to 33%, right? So similarly, all these buttons will be unlocked once the session starts, that is tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And once all of this is done, you can come back and grab your certificates. Let me just go to some of the old programs. Yeah, for example, this program. So since I have marked, so this is how the certificate should will appear once it is done. This is a template, but you can download your own certificate or share directly to LinkedIn. So that's everything. And apart from that, you can join. Uh, yeah, you can join our WhatsApp channel, our Discord communities. You can add everything to your schedule and refer your friends to join the program. Yeah, so I hope the process is very much clear to you guys. Any queries do you have regarding this before I hand? Please do again. Okay, so anyone who has joined the session later, this is YouTube, so of course you can go back and watch the session and see the whole process again. So without any further ado, I'll just hand it over to Twinkle. So let me just call her onto the stage. Just give me a second, guys. Hi Twinkle, how are you?
Hi Prasad, I'm good. How are you?
All good. We are just surviving for the we're just surviving from whatever happened to a channel. So
Right.
yeah, guys. So just to introduce Twinkle, I hope many of you know. You must have seen the sessions previously. So Twinkle is one of our star trainers for anything UI UX design, anything. So she teaches Canva, Figma, all of that stuff, right? So yeah, next 3 days, please ask as many as query you can. Just before I hand it over, small do's and don'ts. Do not spam the chat whenever she's teaching. Please focus on what she's teaching, and she'll give you ample time to ask questions. And that is where you can spam the chat. Yeah. So with that, over to you, Twinkle. And guys, I'll see you at the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prasad. Guys, welcome to the first day of our amazing workshop. Uh, I just quickly want to establish that this is going to be a highly interactive workshop. I am expecting you guys to get back to me with queries. If you have anything, just drop the comments in the chat. Keep asking me questions. We are here to ensure that you guys are learning basically everything there is to learn about Figma in these 3 days. That is what our goal ideally should be. But I mean, at any point, drop a comment or raise a query. All of those are welcome. And yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm very glad to have you on this new channel. Make sure that you are referring these amazing knowledge base to all the people around you, and we'll just start. Uh, so basically, the session is about Figma, but in order to actually get to the point where we start talking about Figma or we start using Figma, I need all of us to be on the same page with regards to design. What does it mean to be a designer? What does it mean when we say that I am a UI UX designer? So, in order to get to that stage, it is very important that we kind of establish the baseline for what design is. So I'm just going to quickly ask everybody to help everybody understand what your perception of design is. What comes to mind when you think about design? What is design to you? Everybody just go to the comment section and just quickly let me know what is design to you. The session will go on till 8:30. It is a 3-day session. Uh, no, I'm not asking what the use case of design is. What is design? What do you understand when somebody says, Ki, can you please create a logo for me? Can you please design a business card for me? Can you create a website for me? Ability to create something unique, to bring ideas into life, user interface and experience, placement of components in a way which looks good. Designing is creating something for people to make user interactive. Okay, anything that attracts us, looks interacting, doodling, convincing people to buy, turning our imagination into a design. It's a blueprint for web development. Okay, okay. Great. It's very good to see that all of you have a different perception of what design is, and I would urge all of you to just take at least 10 minutes and go through all the definitions people are mentioning in the chat. It is amazing. I mean, every second answer is different. Visualization, representing something neatly and effectively. Great, great. I'm so glad that you have a base notion set in your mind that this is what design is all about. Great. To summarize all of your definitions and to take some references from what you have said, design is conveying a message or a piece of information to the users, the end users, in a way that is visually appealing to them, that helps explain the message in a more effective and efficient way. That is, I mean, these are like, these might be very big sounding words, but at the end of the day, if I have to tell somebody that I had 10 rupees, out of which 5 I spent on maybe a water bottle, 4 I spent on another thing, for example, a phone recharge. I know 4 rupees mein kuch phone recharge nahi hota hai, but 5 for water bottle, 4 for phone recharge, 1 rupees I put it in my savings. So, wouldn't it be better if I created a pie chart for this rather than just listing down these three numbers? Maybe if the calculation was bifurcated between hundreds. So, in that case, I would not want to list down just like 100 divisions of what my expense was. I would just rather be comfortable watching it visually. Right. Similarly, if we talk about one of the most memorable brands that you may have seen, let's talk about McDonald's. So, what are the colors McDonald's ka brand is using? Can everybody just again head to the comment section? What are the brand colors of McDonald's? Red, yellow. Great, great. So I'm guessing everybody is familiar with the overall tone, right? You did not have to look it up. You did not really have to think very hard, but somehow in your mind, it was very clear. Now let's talk about Starbucks. What are the primary colors Starbucks is using? I think people are right. Green. Yep, yep, yep. Green and white. Right. So you did not really have to think very hard, right? And it just came to you because that was the recall value. That was the overall branding that they had created, which they repeated over and over on every platform that they had. Be it the containers that they're using, be it the ambience that they have created inside the cafes, they have repeatedly used that color, that same combination over and over again to make sure that you know when you see that color, you think of Starbucks, right? It is not very difficult. So, that is one aspect of what design does. Now, let's talk about a website, maybe probably for IRCTC. It is one of the most information heavy websites there are, right? But similarly, if we talk about a website like Wikipedia, the information, although there is not, not a very big role of design visually in that, but at the same time, I have my information very neatly stacked over there, right? Just a second. Sorry, guys, I have a slight cough, so just excuse me. Right. So, okay. So this is how we have established the use of colors and their recall values, right? So, just a second, guys. Sorry. Yeah. So that is one aspect of all things design. Now let's talk about another recall value for information bifurcation. Now, just let me know if you want me to simplify the language that I'm using or if this is comfortable to you. So, what do I mean by when I say simplifying the information? Okay, so let's take an example of Zara. So Zara has overly simplified their interface. The design, the website design that they've created is highly driven by imagery, right? They're using these offbeat images to showcase their products, right? There is not a lot of information. Sometimes I try really hard to find that key piece of information, for example, the material of this particular jacket. But it's very difficult to find that information because they've kept it super minimal, and they have at the same time tried to focus more and more on the images of the product rather than the actual information that I might need. Whereas on the other side, when we talk about any particular website like Mintra or Nika, so they have used the space optimally. They are catering to my needs. If I want to read more about the product, they have a separate section which is completely, catering to the product details. I have my variables over there on this side. I have bunch of images, I have reviews, I have similar products. There is just like so many things that are important to me, because as opposed to Zara, Mintra is actually catering to the Indian audience. What are their needs? What are their wants? So they have created the UI based on that. They have created the experience based on an average Indian user. Whereas Zara, being a multinational chain, they are more towards creating a brand for themselves, which is a slightly expensive brand, but at the same time is giving you that minimalistic approach, which might not always work for everybody. So that is our base for colors, the recall value, the importance of branding, and how do we go about creating a website that caters to a particular audience. So, okay, let's start by talking about color theory. So, what comes to mind when I say that I want to use the color black for my cloud kitchen? Does that make sense to you? Or if that does not make sense to you, do you suggest that I should probably go for a different color? If you want to suggest a color to me for my cloud kitchen, which color will that be? Okay, so while people reply, I will just take up some questions. Is Figma better than Adobe XD? Yes, 100%. Adobe is kind of stuck in its beta version, while Figma is on its way to integrate AI in a lot of features. So 100% Figma. Okay, so what colors? Red and yellow, light colors. Some said blue, white and red, green, golden, violet. Yes, yes. So majorly for F&B services or restaurants or any food chains, you will notice that they are using colors like red, yellow, white, orange. So these are the warm tones that they prefer taking. One assumption is that these kind of represent the masalas that we have in our homes, right? These are the generic mirchi, haldi masalas. And this is like the overall color of food also. So whenever you think of these couple of colors together, it makes you think of food, right? So that is how they played around this. So let me just present my screen and I'll just take you through a couple of introductory slides that I've created. Okay, great. Can everybody see my screen? Is it visible? Can somebody quickly confirm? Guys, I believe that Prasad had raised that people should not be spamming. Uh, you can raise your concern and somebody will address it from the team. Is my screen visible, guys? Yeah, I can see that it is now. Great. Okay. So let's talk about the building blocks of design. We will start with color psychology. Okay. So now this is a color wheel. What it basically is showing you is the entire spectrum of colors that are available for your disposal. It will be great to get yourself familiarized with what each color resonates what emotions are associated with that particular color, and how can you use all of that information to your advantage. For example, we talked about the red, orange, yellow spectrum to be more driven by food products or beverages. So similarly, you can see that Lipton, because yellow is associated with being energetic, youthful, and fresh. So Lipton green tea, of course, Snapchat is a product that was initially created for the youth. So that is the keyword that it is targeting. Whereas yellow also has some connotations that are associated with it. For example, it can be overwhelming when used in a large setting. For example, if this is my space, this is my workspace, and I create something that takes up so much space. And if you don't understand the interface of Figma right now, that's okay. We will take a separate discussion for that. But right now, I'm just trying to explain that if I'm making a design, it could be a poster, it could be a website design, and maybe I just type this in so much space, regardless of the color this is, it might not be as appealing as opposed to if I do this. Now, in both the designs, I can see that yellow is standing out. But in this version, yellow is the only color that is popping out. And it is, a little too much. If my entire brochure or my entire website is of this color, it might not look ideal. Whereas if I pick a different color, for example, if I pick blue and I change this to this color, it's still looking good, right? It still makes sense. So again, yellow can be overwhelming if used in a different setting where it has been given a lot of real estate, if it has been given a lot of space. Another downside to this color is that it brings on anxiety. So now, again, these are observations that have been built over time through different focus groups, different surveys. So it's not just me who is coming up with these ideas for you, but this has been scientifically proven. So another result of this finding was that mental institutions tend to avoid these colors because they trigger certain anxiety in the people who are visiting or maybe staying there. Similarly, let's talk about a different color, which is purple. So, purple has some emotions associated with it. For example, it can be rebellious. It can, give you a feeling of passion, comfort, sophistication, sincerity. So, for example, if you see the design, the logo for Cadbury, they've not only used the color purple, which entails this emotion, which is sophistication. They've also used a particular font that looks very sophisticated. This is a handwritten cursive font, right? Something very similar to that. So, similarly, for Hallmark, they have used yellow, but at the same time, they've used it in a minimalistic way and they've kept their background as purple. So that, and of course, adding that crown logo definitely gave you that royal feeling. So it really depends on you how to kind of take references from this color wheel, and also understanding that where your brand is on this color wheel. If I want to create something maybe in the field of e-commerce, and for example Nika, it falls in this particular spectrum. So that is the shade that they've used, right? They've not gone more towards red, they've gone more towards somewhere between pink and purple. If I'm remembering it correctly, it's a gradient, right? The bottom side is a shade of pink and the top side is a shade of light purple, something around that. Meta, previously known as Facebook, used a shade of blue, and now they've transitioned in, and they have, I think, used a whole spectrum of these colors. Similarly, what Instagram is doing. And on the other side, when we talk about the color green, it is, of course, connected with nature, success, and growth, fertility. Green that person turned green in envy. Of course, it has some negative connotations also. And then again, this color also makes me think of a product being organic or peaceful. So that is how these colors are associated with certain emotions, and you need to be very sure of the direction that you're taking, whether it's creating a logo, whether it's choosing the base color of your brochure or a social media post, or even for a website. These points of information are very important to consider before you start creating something that may as well identify or kind of tag along with that brand forever. So that's very important. Any questions in this? I'm just going to quickly head to the comment section. Okay. For attendance, yes, somebody will attend to that. Okay, great. Guys, please be active on the chat if you have any queries, because I will be checking in after every section that we cover. Now, the second building block for design is typography. I hope that everybody is aware of what typography is. If not, we will cover it. That's okay. So basically, typography is anything and everything that you are putting information in the form of text, but at the same time, uh, typography is also defining the structure or the flow in which your information will be viewed. For example, if we talk about this particular area, because I designed this in a certain way, I ensured that the text typography gets the biggest font over here. And because it is in the darker background, you were able to view this first. Then, in all of this, you saw this first, and then this. Then you maybe would have moved on to this, something like this. This will be 7, 8, 9. Now, why was this? I mean, you could have viewed this typography first, and second this, and third this. But if you notice that because the size, the hierarchy is basically the structure. Our eyes are trained to view information in a certain manner. It is either the Z pattern or the F pattern. Whenever I'm on a screen, be it a website or a mobile screen, my eyes start to look for information from this point and then they go to this point. If there is an image over here, I will go to this point and then I will traverse down. But if in case it is a reading material, I will keep on reading it like this. I will follow the same pattern. I will follow this direction top to down, but I will keep on following this pattern, right? So I hope that makes sense. And whatever you're designing, just make sure that you are keeping all of these informations in mind while creating something. Now, coming on to why we've covered why you saw this first. Now, between these two, why did you see the double A first? This is basically because between the two of them, your brain kind of analyzed that because this information is bigger in size, it probably is more important. I need to see this first. That is how your brain has been trained over the years. You saw this first, then you realize ki, okay, I've read this, now let's see what is written on top. Then you moved to this piece of information, and similarly you repeated the same action for the next box. Maybe in the next three boxes you saw this first, because now you know that this is the title, this is the serif is the title, and then this is just the sample content. Maybe you try to rewire your brain at this stage, that's okay, but this is the natural approach everybody takes and we should be following it as well. Now coming to different type of fonts. So we have serif, which has these angular curved edges. We have these extra decorative handles on these fonts. These were mostly used in books or magazines anything print, this font was preferred and still is, right? But when we talk about the new age font, which is sans serif, sans is without and serif is the font. So basically, without handles. Now you can see that this particular font is a lot less decorative and a lot more minimal. We have removed the extra handles, the extra curves. It is a lot more simple and easier to read. So this is basically the main derivation. The main reason that this particular font was introduced was for uh, creating more space for the words that are maybe published in a particular book, or even for the digital space. So basically, you must see that a lot of websites are still using serif font for most of their content. So there is a fine line between using serif font for your web designing or brochure designing, but I would not, and that's okay. That's completely okay. It does give you a little luxurious or like that timeless elegance wala vibe, but at the same time, you cannot use this for a smaller font. For example, I have the title and I have, a body text for that. You cannot use this font because in our devices the font size is very small, and this particular font makes it a little hard to read. So I'm not really able to understand what the information. It can be blurry for some people, for most of us actually. So that why we have moved on to a different approach, a much more clean approach, which is sans serif fonts. Now we have some two, I think there are a couple more categories, but mostly fall in this, which is the script and your decorative fonts. Scripts are basically the fonts that I mean, it's just a derivation of serif and sans serif, but in a more styled manner. So, for example, this can be also a script font. This, I think I just drew the same thing again, but you get the point. It's still in this font style, the character is still very cleanly, very creatively designed, but at the same time I can make out that this is an A. While as when we talk about the decorative fonts, they are much more fancy, they are much more lenient. I mean, most of them, I think there is a font that if it looks like this, it has circles or tiny, I think, lines, which used to be used in retro posters. So this was supposed to be O. This is how they had designed it. So these are, a good approach when we are creating a poster which fits my use case. But at the same time, I would not particularly want to use this type of decorative font in a website design. It is not ideal. I would much rather play with a club of maybe script or serif font along with my primary, which is sans serif now. Quickly heading to the comment section. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. How can we obtain the items you're displaying on the screen? Yes, I'll, in the end of the session, I'll make sure that we add this particular workspace to the Notion file that you have gotten. Okay. All right. I guess no doubts as of now. And uh, all right, great. So this was mostly about the building blocks for design. Now let's get down into the world of UI and UX, right? So user interface and user experience. So basically, what is user experience? I have a need and I need the result or some sort of conclusion for that. And I'm a user who could have some certain level of education. I may or may not be fluent with regards to technology, but how can an application or a website make my life easier and take me from this point to this point? So that is where UI and UX plays the most critical role. For example, if I have somebody in my family who needs maybe a doctor's checkup or something, So what I would do is I would go to an application called Practo. I would log in or sign up, whatever the my preferences or my use of the application is like. I search for that particular doctor, or if I don't know who I'm consulting, then in that case, I can search by either the name of the doctor, or I can browse through the rating, review, or the proximity. Proximity bole to, which doctor is closer to me. Once I've searched all these things, what will I do? I will want to book a slot. Now I've booked the slot, I will get a confirmation message that I can also get an email, or I can get an SMS saying that your booking has been confirmed. If in case the doctor is not available and or I need to modify my booking, then I can go to my booking history page. Sorry. So I can go to my booking history page and I can modify my booking from there, right? I don't need to go to the hospital, wait in line, and get somebody to modify my booking. No, I can do it from here. Once I've modified it, and on that date and time, I can visit the doctor and he can give me a prescription and I can take the medicine, right? And hopefully, I'm cured. Sorry, guys, just a second. Yeah. So, basically, this was my need, that I needed my relative to a particular doctor so that they get better. This was my need. This is the result that I wanted. Now, Practo took me from point one, having that need, to the end result, booking that doctor and getting my relative better. Now, it sounds so simple, right? Matlab, I had a need, there was a business, Practo that was ready, and my relative got better. But what goes behind into creating this entire flow? What are the cases that a designer or a developer needs to take care of? How are they making sure that the user is getting to the end result, which is getting better? Or, for example, if I am traveling and I know that I'm traveling, I have made plans, but at the same time, I don't really know where I'm going to stay. So that is where applications like Oyo, BNBs, Booking.coms, Agoda, all these portals come in handy, where I have a need, which is booking a place to stay. And the end result is that I stayed there and my experience was good. Now, to map the entire journey, to understand what edge cases can be there, and how do I go about designing all of these things? It seems like, a very simple, but when you break it down screen by screen, there are multiple cases that come across when you create something. Basically, creating the journey where you just take all the simple and very clean screens. For example, I log in, I don't ask the user to sign up. Right now I'm just mentioning login. I search by name or rating. I'm not taking in to consideration that the name that I've searched for, us naam se koi result nahi hai. I'm not taking that in. I'm just understanding that what is an ideal flow of a user, so that the end case could be that they got the prescription that they wanted. So this is called a happy flow, where I'm not covering any error scenarios. So even if we want to create something called a happy flow, it is very important to have a fair understanding of what user experience is and how do I go about creating my entire interface, so that not only it matches, not only the colors that I'm using on the login page should match the colors that I'm using for my booking history page. It should also have the same language. It should have the same font style. It should also have the same sort of layout as the first one, so that it seems like this entire application is coming together. It is part of the same ecosystem. It's not different. I can't be making my first page red, my last page green, or using a sans font yahan pe and not using, maybe using a decorative font yahan pe. I can't be doing that. All of these pages have to look consistent, have to be consistent. So that is where the designer really has to step up their game and ensure that they are using a design library. They are following certain principles that we will cover later on. But at the same time, they need to be very aware of the technological limitations. So it is not just about creating something that looks good, but it has to work well as well. Okay, so before we get on to explaining, understanding what these principles, the Gestalt principles, and the laws of UX are, I would just quickly take you through what Figma is. So, how many of you are aware of what Figma is, and how many of you have used it before? Can people quickly confirm if you've used Figma before or not? Not used, already used. Okay. First time. Okay. All right. I see that there are some mixed reviews based on what Figma is. So, okay. All right. So basically, because I'm already logged in, so it gave me this result. Let me just go to incognito. I will just quickly look up figma.com. So this is the site. This is what the whole thing has been about. Basically, this is the super cool website that Figma has, and of course, a lot of interactions, a lot of features that they've tried to showcase here. The lot of uh, panels and everything that they are trying to use. So some of your Figma interface might look a little different. For example, this panel that you're seeing at the bottom used to be placed on the top. All of this information used to be placed over here. But in the latest design, latest update of Figma, they've changed a couple of things. They've placed this in a better manner so that I have more space available. And they have, instead of keeping it as a long bar, they've just kept it as a floater tab now. So that's okay. If you think that there are a lot of changes, you can always update your Figma interface and ensure that you are working with the latest one, because they have also incorporated a couple of AI features. For example, as you can see in this particular one, if I am working on something and I need to add a particular text over here, or I need to rename my layers. So AI lets you do that. It's kind of like a shortcut for all of this. Okay, so you can get started for free. Figma has a couple of pricing plans, but you can create your account for free and you can create up to 3 projects. And Figma won't charge you a dime for that. So I would suggest that everybody logs in and you will be landed to an interface that looks something like this. Except if you're a first time user, your interface will be a lot more clean. You won't really see a lot of files over here. It will just be, I think, the 3 files that they provide, the starter files. And you can always go to the top side and create a design file, a fig Jamboard, or a slide deck. For today, we are just going to be covering the design file and what does the interface look like for that. Maybe in the next 2 days, we can discuss what Fig Jamboard and slide decks look like. But that will mainly be dependent on whether you are interested in that. But I would suggest for to understand the UI UX part, we can just refer to the design file. So, okay, this is my interface. As you can see that I have multiple accounts over here. I can switch to them. I have my notifications. I can search for anything from here. Whatever design that I'm creating, whatever file that I'm working on, if I have not moved it to any particular project, it will be visible in my recents or drafts. Sorry, this particular area. I can see all of that from here. I have my trash folder, all projects. I can star any particular file. I can change the name of any particular file from here. I click write. I can see this in any particular project if I have. I can add it to favorites, copy the link, share, duplicate, rename, move to trash, remove from recent. This is my recent panel. I can just remove this file from here. It won't be visible anymore. Now, another cool thing that I absolutely love about Figma is their Explore community. So when I click on this, you can see that a particular new tab with this network globe logo opens up. I can see resource files from here. I can see plugins. I can see some whiteboarding options that I have, presentations. So, for example, I need to see some app UI. So I'm just going to quickly search for app UI. It is going to show me results for all products: Figma designs, dev mode, FigJam, Figma slides. Dev mode is not ideally for designers, but it is a good to have information. It kind of, let me just show you actually. So, for example, I had created a couple of elements. Oh, actually, I don't really have dev mode in this particular account. It is a paid feature. I'll be sure to send you a link which can help you understand what dev mode is, or I can just get an account for that. All right, so I'm just gonna filter it for Figma designs right now. And of course, I want a resource that is free. I don't have a preference with regards to which creator has added it. So basically, anybody can add their contributions, their files, they can add it to Figma community. And of course, they have a filter for Figma partners only. So I had searched for app UI right now. I click on this, open in Figma. And basically, this is just going to be a collection of design that this particular designer has created. They have added all these assets for me to use. And of course, they've put some sort of legal statements which protects the design that they've created. So if I go to the left panel, which is my layers panel, so from here you can kind of see that I can go back to my home page from here, and for from this drop down I can perform a multiple number of tasks. Like I can create a new design file, I can place an image in this particular file, I can save a local copy of this, or I can see version history. Now, version history is a very fascinating feature in Figma. Basically, what it means is if I had created something on this particular file on it is second, maybe I had created something on 31st at 7 p.m. and right now it's 2nd January 7:18 p.m. What if I want to go back and see that what was the design that I had created at that point? So all I would have to do ideally would just go to my files, show version history, and of course, because this is somebody had just created it, let me just go to this particular file and see if I can manage to access the version history. Right, so you can see that it had created so many versions. It goes back to June 27, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. I had created a version. I'm not able to access most of it right now is because I'm on a free plan. But that's okay. I don't really need to access things that far in the past. But just to give you a fair understanding. So this is my collapsible layer panel. I have collapsed it right now, expanding it, and then again, because this file is in my drafts right now and I'm on a free plan, so that is what it's showing me. I have my file and I can go through assets also. What all assets have they used? For example, for any particular image, they have used a particular library or a plugin. For any particular illustration they have used, they went with these particular libraries. So all of that can be accessed from here. We will get to this later on. I can always search for any element that we may have used. So, as designers, it is always suggested that we name our layers. We ensure that we are grouping them properly. So, that is mainly because of this, because I would not really know if I had not named any particular button. If I had not put a chevron left over here, I would just be searching screen by screen for that one button. But if I know what I've named it and I've kept this particular icon in a separate file, then it would be easier for me to look for it, right? Because you don't really know when the necessity for any particular asset may arise. So, similarly, we have now covered files and assets and the search bar. Now, let's talk about my pages and the layers. So, pages are nothing but actual pages that you may have in a book. So, for example, this particular file, food delivery application app UI kit, is my book. And inside that book, I have the liberty to create pages. Every page has a different context. I can set a title to that. I can always double click and edit that title. I can right click, copy, rename, duplicate, or delete this particular page. I can always add another page in this. I can add emojis, I can add text to it. And the most amazing part of this is it keeps my file neat and tidy. I have, so for this particular designer, they had created a welcome sheet, and then they had created a mobile screen interface, and then they had also added some screens for website. So they could have put all of that in one screen, one page, and called it just designs. Rather, to make your life easier, they chose to bifurcate this information into multiple pages. And that is the ideal use of pages. You can create as many as you want. I think in 3 projects, you can probably create a couple more. And of course, you can create as many designs as you want. So the real estate for Figma is pretty vast. This my workspace is a lot of space for you to create an entire ecosystem. So this was about pages. Now let's move on to layers. So this is a collapsible, expandable setup. As you can see, when I'm hovering on it, there is a small drop down icon that comes up. So when I talk about layers, these are the building blocks of my design on Figma. So, for example, if I have created a particular frame, it will instantly pop up and reflect on my workspace as well as my layer panel. Now, if I were to add any particular text in this, you can see that because I added this, I clicked here, I added my text here in the frame, is why it's visible in the frame. If I take it outside, this particular layer will be taken out of the frame from my layers panel as well. I hope this is clear to everybody. Only in the case of frames, if I had just created a rectangular box and added any particular text on top of it, it would not have taken it in this box. But frames are designed in such a way that whatever design that you put inside it is already grouped with this particular frame being the parent container or the parent element, right? Another cool thing about frames is that I can, on my properties panel, I have an option to clip content in that particular frame. Uh, Please note that I had selected this frame. This checkbox appeared. It was checked before. I have unchecked it. So if I increase the size of this font now, it will spill over. It is still in the basically frame 20 is still the parent layer of this particular element, but the text that I have written can spill over. But if I deselect and select my frame again, go to clip content, this information will be hidden now. It is still part of the same family, but it is hidden, right? So these are the elements that really help us when we work on prototypes or creating an interactive design. So I hope this left panel is clear. Let's move on to the panel that I have at the bottom. And for most of you, this panel will probably be placed somewhere over here. It will be of the same color as this. It might look a little different, the buttons might be placed a little differently, but this is where the overall placement will be like. Now I have multiple options. I have my cursor, I have my hand tool, which will help me to navigate through whatever screens or the workspace that I have. The alternate for this is selecting move, holding down the space bar. It will convert your cursor into a hand tool, and then you can, of course, by holding down the space bar, you can just navigate through the design. And scale is one of my favorite features. If I have to resize any of the components, so what do? I hold down shift and then I drag it up and down, right? So that is what we were taught. If any of you had used Photoshop or Illustrator or Adobe XD before, so this is what the ideal approach is. And if I want to, increase the size vertically and horizontally at the same time, I would hold down shift and alt, right? But Figma has kind of given you that option. When I press K just once, it does give me that option to just scale it up and down without having to lose its property. For font, I think it's pretty easy, but let's just talk about a container. So if I take it down from one corner, I pull it down from one corner, you can see that its height and width and breadth, all of that is changing, right? So maybe if I just pressed K, you can see that the scale option has opened up on the right side. Now what I can do is I can just move the corner or any particular line, and the elements will increase in size in ratio. If you can notice the width and the height, it is increasing continuously and together, right? So that is the main motive, main reason behind using this particular tool. And of course, then we have the frames, we have sections, we have slices. Frames, I've told you, sections and slices we can work on later on. You have your basic shapes that kind of work as a shortcut. You can just use a particular image. You can just drag and drop from here. You've got your pen tool, your pencil tool, your text. You can comment. So, for example, if there are multiple people who are working on any particular file and I need to highlight something for the other person to see, so maybe I can just click on this button, or I can press the button C, the key C, and my cursor will change into this comment shaped box. I tap and I enter something. So now these comments are visible to the person who will comment to the file now after me. And of course, some of the features for these are not just AI tools or shortcuts, but these are also, added features that are used in Figma for your benefit. We will get to all of that once we have, once we actually start designing something. And yeah, so this is the layer at the bottom. Now let's go about checking the right side, which is the property panel. So you can see that I have an account, and there is a drop down over here. And when I hover, it says multiplayer tools. So basically what it's telling me is that if multiple people were viewing this file, their names will be added to the list. If I click on the drop down, you will be able to see the list of all the people who are active on this particular file. I think we'll be able to see this tomorrow once I've shared the link with you, and most of you will be able to see the information. And if I click on Spotlight Me, that means all of the people who are present on the site, on the file, will be automatically added as a follower to me. So if I'm moving my cursor to this side, your screens will automatically be redirected to this particular screen. So it is a very good to have feature, especially when we are giving a walkthrough. For example, I am the designer. Some of you are in my tech team, some of you are the clients, and I'm just trying to help you understand that this is the flow that I've created. This is the information architecture that I have created for all of you. Now, instead of sharing the screen where there might be a couple of glitches or in the internet or something, I can just share this particular link with you. You can all get onto this file. You can all follow me through the spotlight feature. And of course, I can also join via audio mode. So I will be able to interact with you once you have joined this file, added me, followed me, and be able to talk to each other while presenting comments. If there is something that needs to be changed, anybody can always comment here. Then we have the present mode, which is the prototype mode. So it is a very realistic way to look at your design. So, for example, not this one, but the space that they have given, it makes me feel like this is an actual design that I'm seeing in any particular browser, because the top navigation makes me feel that way, that this is a particular design that I'm seeing, which is live on the application. If I had added, if the designer for of this file had added a particular animation or a couple of transitions, then it would actually seem like that I'm actually viewing a ready product. I'm not really seeing a website. Now let's come to the mobile application. I have played the prototype again for these designs. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the prototype mode and select a device. I think they had already selected iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I'm just going to keep selecting that. I am going to change the color to midnight green, and the orientation is horizontal, sorry, vertical. So as you can see that all of this information, all of the designs that I am seeing, they look very simple, very bland over here. But in the prototype mode, they're really coming alive. I'm really able to see that, how the design will look like in a particular screen. So it gives me a fair assumptions of what my design will look like as an end result. So this is also super helpful. And I can, of course, zoom in, zoom out, add rulers. I can add a pixel grid. I can see the property labels. I can see all of that information. Now, again, this is the information set that belongs to the prototype section. But my primary work will actually entail or revolve around the design page. So let's get back to our file, and let me just quickly create something which will, and go back to the design panel. So I have selected this particular box. Now, as you can see that it's a rectangle, it is a shape. I can create it as a component. We will cover the components bit tomorrow along with the parts of auto layout. And let's just skip all of this information for today, because I have only selected one layer, and the Figma workspace is kind of endless. So I don't really have anything to align this with. These are my alignment tools, right? If I had selected two layers, if I had selected hello and the purple background, then I would be able to align it based on whatever my requirement is, right? So I aligned all of this information. I'm just gonna put it back to this particular corner. As you can see that the x-axis and the y-axis is changing based on my placement. And of course, I can change it. I can change the angle, and I can flip my information as well, right? And I can move it diagonally also. Now, this is the height and the width of that particular container that I have, or whatever element that I have. For example, for this hello, my current dimensions for this are dimensions, not the coordinates. These are the coordinates of my element on this particular workspace. When you see in the layout panel, you have the width and the height. These are the dimensions of my assets. So for example, if I'm stretching it up, you can see that the height is changing on this panel. Similarly, if I stretch it on my x-axis, my width is changing. So again, this can be managed from here. If I lock this and I change the design, so because this was text, this was not really, a vector shape. This was content. So only the content frame is decreasing in size. And of course, the width is changing in proportion to it because I had logged the aspect ratio for this, right? And if I want to decrease the height and width of my text, I just press down K and I take a corner and pull it back. Now, of course, because it being a font, you can also change any of the settings or the properties from the typography tool as well. One more thing that is left here is opacity. So as you can see that I can enter a particular number from here and the opacity will change, or I can just hover on this and play around with the opacity. I can also change this particular panel is corner radius now, because then again this is not really a vector file, but this rectangle is, so this is enabled and I can change the corners. Okay. Right. So selecting my text again, you can see that the by default font that Figma is using is Enter. I can, of course, always change through all the fonts that are there in my system, or I can download them from sites like B Fonts, Da Fonts, 1001 Fonts. So that's really up to you. I can change the weight of this particular font. I can make it thin, I can make it extra light, I can change the size. I can change if there are multiple lines. For example, this was my text. So I can change the line height from here. You can see that this gap has changed. But of course, I am trying to increase the gap from here to here. So the gap from here to here will also expand. So in order to not face this challenge, I can centrally align my text, right? In any particular line. I can also change the letter spacing. So these are the fields that let you play around with the typography. So for now, I'm just gonna keep my line height auto along with my uh, letter spacing. I'm just gonna keep it at 0%. This is my alignment with regards to being in the same container. So right now my font is left aligned. As you can see that I can centrally align it, I can right align it, or I can justify this text, which means that there will be equal spacing and we will try to spread out the content to all the edges. But that's not what we are trying to do over here. We have multiple options of formatting. We can change the cases to uppercase, lowercase, sentence case, title case, all of those things. And if a particular font supports this feature that all the information will be in caps, it's just that the first letter will be of a bigger size as compared to the rest of the characters. Then again, I have features like filling the colors into the design that I'm creating. I can change the fill, I can add gradient to this, I can change the shape of that gradient, whether it should be radial or diamond. I think this should be better represented on, yeah. So I'm just gonna change this and remove this font from here. So as you can see, I've added a linear gradient to it right now. I can also make it radial, I can make it angular or diamond. So it all depends on what my design need is, right? All right, I can also handle the opacity of this particular design from here. You might not be able to see it very clearly because, yeah, it was on gray background before. Sorry. Sorry, guys. So, okay. So now I am able to change the opacity for this particular color. I can hide this layer from here. I can remove the shade that I've added if I don't like it. I don't particularly like this color. So I'm just gonna remove it instead of like actually going and changing it or trying to make it something that I don't prefer right now. I'm just gonna remove it. My layer is still here. It has no color in it, but what I can do is I can go to fill, add, and a by default color has been added to this. And I can, of course, add any particular color that I want. I can change. So for print material, most of the design is dealt in RGB, but for web designs, most of the colors are shared in the form of hex codes. It is a six-character code, alphanumeric basically, and I can change the opacity from here as well. Here and here. It's the same thing. It's basically a shortcut for this. Then I can add strokes to any particular layer. Also, whatever information that I'm telling you applies on the typography as well. Any element that can be converted into a vector, this information, all of this uh, properties that we're talking about, it applies to all of that as well. So I have selected this. Now I'm just gonna make it into something that looks presentable at least, so that uh, just because we are designing something quickly does not mean uh, we can't make it look nice also. So, okay, this combination looks decent. I'm just gonna go into the effects panel. I can see that there are four options. I can provide some inner shadow, which makes it look like that this purple area might be hollow and a little levitated, right? I can change the dimensions, I can change the positions, I can change the blur spread for this. I can change the effect altogether, change it to drop shadow, and make it seem like that the purple background is solid, but the design that I have put on it is levitating. The text itself is levitating, right? I can change the color of the spread also. For example, if I want to give it like an angelic glow, I can maybe make it white if I need to keep it. So you can see that this looks like this particular text that I've used is glowing. If I had added any particular different color, so this is giving me a different effect. Again, whatever suits your use case, you should use that. Now I have layer blur, which kind of blurs the entire design that I've created over here. So whatever element in my layer panel, whatever layer that I've selected, this filter will be applied to it. Now there is another feature that is called background blur. So I have 10 points of background blur happening on my design. What I'm going to do is I'm just gonna quickly change the opacity to this particular design, and I'm going to add a different color behind it. Uh, okay, I think I need to create a little dark color and maybe change this particular background color to white, right? Okay, so I have added the background blur as 10. Now let's see what this intersection looks like when the background blur was 2. You're able to see the design in the back, right? Now if I had added it to 10 again and I had reduced the opacity of my file to 10, so this is what it will look like. The solid red color is getting blurred in the background because I had reduced the opacity of my original file. So I think this is making it clearer. I hope the effect is clear to everybody. I'm just gonna turn it something like this. So this kind of design is quite appreciated in the world of graphic design. So ideally, Figma is not the right tool for graphic designing, but then again, because it's such a versatile tool, so you have so many options that you can explore from. And at the end of the day, if you are done with your design, if you want to share it with the people, and not share it in the sense that you would want to, share it via a shareable link or in the form of a prototype, you can go to export. Tap on this, you have multiple options in which you can export your file, and of course multiple sizes, and whatever you're comfortable with. For example, if I want to export this particular hello, just this file, not the frame, so I have selected this, export this file, and it is going to ask me where do you want to save this file. I have saved this file in my desktop as hello.png. So you can see that all the area that hello was covering, along with some of the red, is visible over here, right? Uh, okay, all right. So this was a brief introduction of what Figma Workspace is and why is it important to have a fair understanding of user experience and user interface. So let's just quickly understand the principles that will affect your decision making whenever you are in the process of creating any particular interface, or if you have any doubts in your mind with regards to your approach, whether I should be taking this particular color, whether the information placement is okay or not. This will definitely help you. So Gestalt principles are as follows. Law of common region. Elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area and the boundaries are clearly defined. So, for example, this and this design was very similar, right? They have a black background, they have some very pop colored cards and some information. So if I had not put this particular design in a different container, it might have looked like it belongs to the same setup, right? But because I defined the boundaries for this, so it made it seem like this particular laws of UX frame is different as compared to this, right? So similarly, on any particular site, if we see a few cards that are listed, maybe of some jacket or some trouser or something, if they are listed like this, right, it is going to seem like these belong together. Whatever filters that I had put, maybe of a particular price range or something, these belong together. But if there is a breaker and then there are a couple of other cards and there is a particular title, so I would not need to even read the title, but I will already understand that this bunch belongs together. This may have some new added information, right? So I will be cautious, I will be careful in reading all of these informations, right? Okay, law of proximity. Objects that are near or proximate to each other tend to be grouped together, right? So, for example, if I have a couple of information, for example, I have a particular uh, card that I want to. So this might be perceived as an image, right? And then I have a particular title for my information. I have a body text or something similar. And then I have mentioned that this is how much the pricing is. And then I have added a discounted price. Because I've added my price over here, people, because this is the standard behavior, people know that if this is grayed out or slashed, this means that this is also pricing because they are grouped together. I can't really be putting the discounted price somewhere over here that this is what it used to be. It's not going to make sense to the user. So they have to be put together because they belong together. These two pieces of information, they belong together, right? So I have to put them together. Now, okay, I don't really know how to pronounce this. I'm going to leave that up to you. People will perceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simplest form possible because it is an interpretation that requires the longest cognitive effort of us. Okay, so I think this is a very good example of that. So, this information is too complicated. Why not break it down? Because that is how the audience will perceive it. You will need to create some sort of structure for the user to follow. You will need to leave some Easter eggs, some hints for the user to understand that this is what the breakdown is, starting from the outermost shape, right? Now, laws of similarity. The human eye tends to perceive similar elements in a design or even a complex picture, shape, or group, even. So, okay, let's just take this for an example. We were talking about the color for Cadbury. I think that was purple. This is a little more burgundy or something a little more maroon, but in pastel shade. So, imagine if this was in purple and all of these whites were maybe the bubbly chocolate that there is, right? Or maybe this was the design for this. So I would be able to perceive it a lot better. I would be able to relate to the colors a little more, and I would be able to identify, because my eye is trained to find any particular resembling shape to give me a sense of connectivity with the message that the graphic is trying to make. All right. The law of uniform connectedness. So, a very easy example for this is infographics. If some of you are aware of what infographics is, let me just quickly look up so that everybody is on the same page. Information that is a little content heavy, but at the same time, it is created or designed in such a manner that it looks visually engaging while explaining the essence of what we are trying to do over here. So these are basically infographics, all of these information types, right? So when we talk about an infographic, okay, so these elements, regardless of their design style, but they are flowing together. And the design is created that it makes me feel like this is one connected loop, right? So all of this information, according to me, is perceived in such a way that I know this belongs together. And this is trying to tell me a story that I need to follow through. My brain does not comprehend or understand or make me feel like this might be, a separate information. No, I know that all of this belongs together and I should be following through with this, right? So these are the 5 Gestalt principles. I think for the laws of UX, they are not too complicated. We can just go through them quickly, and then I'll share the link to this file as well. Okay, so aesthetic usability effect. Users often perceive aesthetically pleasing design as design that works more or that's more usable, right? So take an example of Apple products. They look super sleek, they are very attractive, their user experience is supposed to be exceptional, right? And it is in most cases. I think in what 98% cases it is true. So the things that look clean are perceived to be working better also. For example, if I talk about, again, no shade on IRCTC's website, but if you compare that with the BNB's website, I mean, one has, like, very cluttered information heavy structure, while the other one is a lot more, minimal and cleaner. So of course I would perceive that that BNB's website is working, or is supposed to work a lot more efficiently. So okay, Fitts law. The time to acquire a target is a function of the distance to and size of the target. Okay, so let me just simplify it. I know a lot of heavy words. Basically, in this particular design, we we need to consider that this blue button that is here right now is the action button, right? So we have the banner image, we have some content that is trying to explain what the banner image is about, and then we have the button, right? We can't really place the button in the center without even explaining what this image is all about. We need to make sure that user is understanding the flow. He is looking at the design visually, he is understanding the design through the content that you've written, and then the user is making a conscious decision to no more purchase or just whatever your actionable is getting in touch. So we have to ensure that the user is understanding the flow, and then at an optimally spaced out then we place the button basically in an optimum way, right? Then we have Hicks law. The time it takes to make a decision increases with the number and the complexity of choices. So I think most of us would have heard this saying somewhere as we were growing up, that the more choices you have, the harder it is to make a decision, right? So is why. For some of the applications, some of the products, they tend to get some sort of feedback from you or get an understanding of you, that what are your preferences. For example, Pinterest, when I'm onboarding myself on Pinterest or creating a new account, it asks me to select what all things that I like, what all information I would want to see, and it gives me n number of choices. And I'm always very confused because I want to select everything, but at the same time, it also sounds very similar. For example, they have creative writing, they also have writing. I don't really know which I should select, which I should not select. But why not just give me options of that are like a little more simplified? Why not just music, art, writing, technology? Why do you need to like define technology and coding? I understand these are two very different domains, and AI and IT. But for a person who is coming onto the platform, why overwhelm them with a lot of information, while at the same time, what they could have done is, when I am an active user, they could have asked me later on that in technology, these are the domains, do you want a specified feed or not? So these kind of information or the choices that we are getting the user to make, they do affect my time on the platform. What if my onboarding form is a little too big? I might just quit and not come to the platform ever again. So that is also something that is very important, and we need to cater that. Users. So this is Jacob's law. Users spend most of the time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites that they already know. For example, we know that the branding of the particular site, any particular site, is usually on the top left. Now, in a different, a complete drastic world, what if this logo was placed over here and this area was kept empty? There was no division over here, this information was put here. I would just be looking everywhere to understand what is the name of this product, what is the name of this company. And because we have these patterns that we talked about, it is either F pattern or Z pattern. This is the last point that I will see, and I will not be able to understand why. This is just going to boggle my mind, that why is their logo, their primary identity source, placed at the bottom right when it should have been bottom left? Why am I perceiving it to be on the bottom, top left? Because this is where the placement of the logo is for all the other websites. This is what everybody is doing. So why is this company trying to reinvent the wheel? Why are they trying to fix something that is not broken? We don't really need to do that. Okay, so we cannot really stray too far away from the industry standards that have been set and have been actively followed by everybody. Okay, then there is Miller's law. The average person can only keep seven plus or minus two items in their working memory. So, all the laws that I've told you right now, I'm sure that you will probably not remember all of them. Maybe you will remember a few jinke examples you really resonated with or understood. But too many choices will not only lead to user drop off, you will also end up confusing the user, and they will not remember even the important information that they might have shared with you. So similarly, for Photoshop or even the layers panel that we see right now, they have tried to group most of it so that it is, they have not put all these three type of cursors that I have in this panel, because you might, once you've reached the first, you might remember what the sixth button does, but you might not remember what the 19th button does. So is why grouping is important, to kind of minimize the information that you are showing to the user. Okay. And on this note, I think I'm just gonna head to the comment section and see if anybody has any questions. Okay, I guess not any particular questions. Guys, thank you so much. Tomorrow we will start working on creating an app screen based on all the information that has been talked about today. And we will be surely implementing most of these laws and understanding what their practical approaches are. And if you have any use case that we can cover, for example, I talked about Practo's user journey, that this was my need and this was the result that I wanted. I had a sick relative and I wanted them to get better, so this is how an application helped me. So I would love to hear some of your insights on maybe a use case or a problem statement that you may have, and how that application is helping you out, or what the user flow for that particular product is. We can just brainstorm it. You can just let me know in the comment section. No need to create something, no need to map something out, but just to understand that what is the core problem any particular product is trying to solve, and then we can move on to designing more on Figma. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. See you tomorrow.